Hey guys, I'm here to get into Aphex Twin, who is a singular man, Richard E. James. He is one of the greatest musicians, my favorite musicians of all time. I mean, he's in my top 10 at this point because of his work, particularly on the first two big albums he made, Selected Ambient Work duo. I mean, they both just stand up as about one of those perfect soundscapes of all time, where it's like a modern Mozart's coming around and transcended the essence of classical into a modern foundation, classic techno kind of sound. There's just something uniquely creative and eccentric about the way this whole thing plays out. I mean, it just can't be understood enough how just how just profoundly forward thinking this music feels. Like it feels increasingly relevant in modern times. Sometimes it's gonna be haunting. Sometimes most of the time he's very relaxing. But in his own kind of way. But it does feel like a very dystopian influence is going into his music. So there's a lot of like insanity sort of going on around, but it's almost like finding a calm within a lot of madness as being perceived. And a lot of interesting influence going into it. But it starts right here with the 1992 album, Selected Ambient Works, Volume 1, which the man spent 7 years making this album and just composing all these unique soundscapes and structures, and they're just completely original sound. I mean, you just got something purely perfect about every song on this album, honestly. And it comes back always as forward thinking, like Pulse Width. It's just about the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, it's just really gripping. And it's just always a form of minimalism coming out. That's where he's inspiring me. And more I understand minimalism is wiser, and I will be further honing in on that in my art, most definitely. The importance of minimalism, which Aphex Twin's a huge, big time stands for. Like, you install Aegiopolis, Green Calyx, Green Calyx. It's so addicting. I could really listen to these songs over and over again, and it just evokes all kinds of joy, and it's just the ultimate sense of modern classical. I mean, I could really listen to that over and over again. It's 10 minutes long, and it just feels like all these songs take you to a place that's just so far into the abstract that you're just in a wholly new place entirely. That's minimalist and just very sweet. We the music makers. It's just so freaking good. Like, I mean, I would say a lot of this, and this might sound goofy, a lot of this truly almost feels badass here since. Like, there's a badassery to how just, I don't know, skilled it all feels. Like, it just feels like a forward-thinking musician come around, brought all these instruments that shouldn't work, but he made it work. And that makes it all the more better. So it's not progressing, guys, like Frank Zappa, the minimalism rather than the hyper masculine. So this is just, oh man, there's a uniqueness to be found about this sound. It's very special. I mean, it came out in 1992, but this just sounds like any decade, like 2000s, 2010s. It feels like, I mean, of course, this is like Tom York's biggest hero, Radiohead. This is his biggest influence of all time, as it turns out. And then it's turns out Aphex Twin's not a big Radiohead fan. I think that's pretty cool. he's got his own, I think the outlook actually is very different from a Radiohead outlook. This is a lot more, I don't know. I hear the ultimate no complaining here. I'm going for it. I actually really relate to this man a lot. I think whenever the essence comes in, I'm just going for it. Like, this is just quite perfect. I love this stuff so much. And you got the sequel came out in 1994, and it's even better. It's just 2.5 hours, and that's the thing. I don't need, because it's like there's not only like 2 titles on the whole thing, so I never sit down, look at it. I just play the whole thing through like a 2.5 hour song, and I often do it while I'm working. It's just, it always puts me in the endless drift. That's just, it makes the time feel like an essence of its own, and it goes by so fast, and makes the process so enjoyable, social process so enjoyable, and it just feels like I'm really in a horror kind of landscape. That's the magic of the Aphex Twin, and I feel like he's just the best of all time, perhaps, at doing this kind of thing. I mean, there's just nothing like it. It's a very overwhelming kind of album. Then you got like the Richard E. James album in 1996, and that's just the one where it sounds like To Cure a Weakling, boy-girl song. There's almost an eeriness to it. That's just, man, he'll never forget the way this plays out. Simply put, it's just very forward. And then he gets really hyper. Like, I don't always want to re-listen to this stuff, but when it comes, undeniably he is a genius here. That's very cold-hearted. We're in 2001 now, but there's some genius stuff living here while saving production quality. I reminds me a lot of the stuff like Miles Davis is doing on the corner sessions. I prefer going to that as far as the end part. But I mean, because I think at this point I prefer this year, like the beat what Bjork was doing in Vespertine as far as this kind of sound goes. But I mean, this man is a freaking genius. What he did in 1992 and 1994 deserves to live on forever. Everyone deserves to check this man out, because he's the best at bringing classical to a modern world, along with the band Radiohead. I think they're the best artists at bringing that in the purest sense. Highly recommended.